just now, and my company, I guess, is one of the ones that helps make the databases that all of this information is stored in. Because I work for Instantiations. We're one of the 3 commercial soft talk vendors. You heard from James Foster yesterday, I guess, about Gemstone. And Suzanne Fortman is here from Syncom, which is the other commercial vendor. So we're all complicit in gathering that information indirectly, at least, because we sell products that these companies use to do it. So I'm here to tell you about what the new things are going on with our product. I guess I'll start out by saying, who's ever heard of VA Smalltalk? Oh, that's great. That's better than I sometimes get. So I want to tell you a little bit about what the company's doing, a little bit about our current release, which is going to be available next week, and a little bit about where we're going from there. Okay? So Instantiations, as you heard from Alan Worthsbrock, has been around a number of years. We're in our 3rd instantiation of instantiations as a company. And I've been working for the company for about 6 years. I retired from IBM, took the Visual Age Smalltalk product from IBM to Instantiations, and went to work for them as principal Smalltalk architect, the chief technical officer for the company. We sponsor the major conferences and attend. And we're supporting the new Smalltalk Foundation, and I'm going to talk about that kind of at the end of my presentation, just for a couple minutes. Our CEO is on the board of directors, and I'm on the board of advisors, along with a lot of other Smalltalk people. If you want to know things about VA Smalltalk, we have user-to-user communication through our Google groups. We have historic communications going back to the beginning of when Instantiations took the product over from IBM. And we have videos and podcasts to help you understand what the product can do and how to use it. And if you are, for example, a new user or somebody who wants to try VA Smalltalk, I definitely encourage you to look at the podcasts. James Robertson did an amazing job with them. So our new release coming next week. We kind of make changes in all areas of the product. So starting in the base class libraries, in 8.6 we had zip unzip available on Windows. Now it's on all platforms. We do base 64 encoding on all platforms. We have, in order to support commonality with other Smalltalks, we've implemented a common color class that's portable to replace our very specific graphic colors. We've added translucent colors and a number parser for your use in gathering numeric information from strings. In terms of our graphic framework, we have a very mature graphic framework that supports native widgets on all the platforms we run on, particularly on Windows. We've analyzed the kind of the messaging loop, and we've made some changes that make it really run quite a bit faster. And also we've added dead key detection so that we can deal with combining characters from the keyboard. As you heard when Seth talked about our text editing capabilities, we use the Scintilla open source library as sort of the underpinning, the basic technology for text editing. We keep the interface to that current. As they add new API, we update the Smalltalk bindings to that API. We don't necessarily use all of those APIs, but they're all wrapped and available. For this release, we've changed from using the window message queue to using direct call interface to Scintilla. And this has made, in some cases, an extremely dramatic improvement in our performance in doing that interfacing. In terms of browsers, we've got better looking browsers this time around. We use the platform-specific, platform-standard fonts in our browsers instead of our own specific fonts. We've improved the look of the progress bars in the development environment. And in terms of accessing code from the NV Manager, the code repository, we've reduced the number of interactions between the client image and the repository manager so that that improves performance of displaying content from the repository. One of the things about NV, the repository manager, is it's very chatty, going from the client to the repository. And so if you have high latency networks, it can get quite slow. So anything that we can do to improve that really is a big bonus. In terms of the browsers themselves, we've implemented something that Pharaoh's had for a long time, but we haven't, which is the virtual all category. So instead of having to select particular categories, you can just have them all selected, see all your methods by default, and it is on by default in this release. Everything's customizable, so you can turn it off if you don't like that. One of the things that we did to the browsers was, because we have sort of infinite undo-redo capability, it's really helpful to let the users know whether any particular content in a text pane is dirty or not. In other words, whether there are still more undo operations that can be applied. And so when the content is dirty, the icon for the tab is colored red. When you've undone all the way back to a clean version, the same version that you started with, it turns back to its normal color. I'm gonna go through this stuff really fast because Seth talked about this in detail during his presentation. He talked about using context-sensitive algorithms to be able to highlight not just every string that matches, but every string in context. In other words, it would be a message send that matches, or the contents of a dictionary that matches. And we use that in all of our highlighting browsers now. In terms of our inspectors, we've had some fairly significant performance improvements when you're working with large collections, dictionaries in particular. The same sort of mechanisms for identifying interesting things in your methods that Seth showed when you're editing, we also use that same technique in the debugger. So the debugger edit pane has all of the capability really of a standard edit pane in terms of the highlighting and lint checking and everything else. He talked about code completion, method collapsing, or comment collapsing, I'm sorry. So I'm going to pass on that. We talked about that in Seth's presentation. We talked about interactive refactoring, push up, push down of temporaries, declaring temporaries based on them being referenced, renaming within the method. The background lint checker that's just running pretty much all the time, and you're not aware of it except you see the results. This is the same thing that he showed on the theme management, where it's all kind of point and click now as opposed to table driven as it used to be. So one of the things that can be important for porting applications, say from Faro to VA Smalltalk, is a really strong tool for making the syntactical and semantic changes in the, not just in the code, but in the application management structures. You talk about packages in Faro, we talk about applications in VA Smalltalk, and they're more or less parallel, but you can't just take one and turn it into the other. So we've developed a Monticello importer that will read an MCZ package and create all of the structure in VA Smalltalk for that package. And that's what we use to port Seaside, and it was available in 8.6, and we've made quite a few improvements based on our experience in doing Seaside ports for 8.6.1. In terms of EMServe, the repository manager, we've had in the past some limitations in the UNIX environment. Particularly on Linux, we were limited to 2 gigabyte repositories, and we were limited to the types of file systems the repository could reside on. And that's what drove the 2 gigabyte limitation. All of that has been removed, so we will run on any of the file systems supported by the particular Unix flavor you're running on, and there's no more file size limitations. I mentioned Seaside a little bit earlier. We're about half a point release behind in terms of where the Seaside development is right today as I stand here. For 8.6.1, we have the very latest stable Grease and latest stable, plus a little bit, Seaside. Lots of small fixes. One of the things that our customers had asked us in terms of doing this port was to specifically identify what Seaside package versions we had ported so that they could know if they're running something on Faro or VW, something on VA Smalltalk, and they see differences, they can kind of cross-reference and say, well, here's the differences in the package version, so maybe that explains why I'm seeing different behavior. So we've done that for this release. We have a web services framework. This is something that's quite important to many of our enterprise customers as they want to take their existing applications that have been running, say, with fat clients and deploy them on the web as services. We have supported up to now SOAP 1.1. SOAP 1.2 is the latest available stable version, and we've added support for that in this release. Glorp is another open source project that we port. We work with Neil Ross from VW to maintain Glorp, and we have gone from the 7.9.1 to the 7.10.1 version in 8.6.1. Now, we have had strong database support in the product for IBM's DB2, Oracle, industry standard, enterprise level databases, but we've had requests from customers for something that's lighter weight. You know, setting up and maintaining, being a database administrator for Oracle or for DB2 is a job all in itself. And we know because we have to do it for ourselves for testing. So in this release, we've added full support for SQLite. This gives you the capability of having simple in-memory databases or simple on-file databases, but no administration associated with it. So this is a very interesting new capability we have that we plan not only to present to our customers, but also to use internally for some of the things that we have been doing up to now in sort of ad hoc tables. In 8.6, we had a new Windows installer. We've had our own custom installer ever since Visual Age 1.0. We decided to get out of that business. We're not install experts. So in 8.6, we started using Install Shield for our installation. Of course, for 8.6.1, we added the upgrade capability, so you can take an 8.6 installation or another 8.5 installation, for example, and upgrade it. And we've started our path to having standard installers on Unix. We've got both RPM and Deb installers for Linux. We've separated the documentation from the code, so if you don't want to install the documentation, you don't have to pay the price for downloading it, because it is a large package. For this release, AIX and Solaris are unchanged in terms of their installer. That'll be next release. You have to leave something to do starting next week. And finally, this is something in the environment management tool was something else that we added in 8.6. It was a new feature which says, as developers, we all have different images that we're running. May have an image with database capability in it because we're trying to do something with database, and another one with HTML capability because I'm doing Seaside. And there has never been in our environment a way to manage those images, to give you a tabular view of the images with their names and allow you to manage them. That was added in 8.6, and it was enhanced based on customer feedback in 8.6.1 to allow, for one thing, to allow importing of environments that weren't created with this tool. And for documentation, we've had customer requests for a long time to improve our very basic getting started book. It's kind of the first book we suggest people look at, and so we have completely rewritten it for this release. We've included the information that used to be scattered among several other books into this book, and we talk about really the two paths for application development. The one using the composition editor, which is a parts wiring approach, and the path using hard-coded Smalltalk. This used to only talk about the parts wiring approach. So we've added a significant amount of material and give you a much better introduction to the VA Smalltalk concepts, as well as kind of a roadmap for how you should now progress into the other documentation to get more in-depth information. We've added new platform support, and that's it for the current release. For us, this is really exciting because SQLite was probably the biggest thing that we did that we think is most valuable. So let's look to the future. What are we going to start doing after we deliver this release next week? Well, our releases are scheduled about once a year, and so after this release is out, we'll all sit down and we'll start planning what we're going to do next. Seth and I have a pretty good idea what we're going to do already, but we always want to have a planning session where all the developers have the opportunity to bring their knowledge to the group on what should be done next. So the next release, when I've done this presentation in the past, I've had sort of a laundry list of all the future things we might do. I've refocused it this year. These are the specific candidate items for the next release. That doesn't mean we're going to deliver all of them, but it gives you a better idea when you look at it of what you might expect in the next release. And we've actually identified between Seth and I the resources for each of these items in terms of our developers. We're planning on offering full Unicode support. We're going to do it in one release. Got our fingers crossed. We'll continue to improve the Seaside support as Seaside grows. We will do full inflate deflate. I said we had zip unzip. Inflate deflate is an in-memory zip unzip essentially. And we're looking at doing either Postgres or MongoDB as yet another database support. We're still sort of surveying to find out which one our customers would prefer. But once again, this is a level of database support that's below the current enterprise capable DB2 and Oracle. For GUI look and feel, we continue to make improvements here in terms of mainly Windows. Our user interface development efforts are really focused on Windows and not so much on Unix. We're looking at an easy-to-use server farm framework. As I said, we're going to have the new installers for AIX and Solaris, and which will be headless, and that's important in the Unix environment. We're looking at a WAN gateway for EMServe. You know, running to the repository over a wide area network is kind of a non-starter at the moment because it's chatty, but we know how we can cut down on that chattiness significantly. We plan on having full OpenSSL support. Right now it's only supported as part of our HTTPS network activities. And in terms of incremental performance and scalability, we're going to have an incremental garbage collector and a 64-bit VM. And I'm going to talk about that for just a minute because it's been an interesting trip from where we are now, from where we started, which is a Smalltalk model generating assembler code in a very Smalltalk custom build environment to using a standard code management system. We used to store it in the image. Using Git, using GCC in place of platform-specific compilers, so we're cross-platform. Using code blocks instead of Smalltalk as the IDE for the VM. Using CMake and its subtools as our CI system. And we've done this in an incremental development approach. That is, we have shimmed the existing VM to add the new capability a little bit at a time. So we've always had a running 32-bit VM as we added the new code. Some new code, some old code. It's pretty much all new code now. And some of those fixes that we actually discovered in doing the port have been backported. So I said the existing VM is 90% Smalltalk model. The rest was C. It's going to be all C except about that much. The new 32-bit VM is going to be fully functional, fully compatible with the current VM. That is, all the existing 32-bit images will run on it. The new 64-bit VM, we believe, will be nothing but a recompile of the 32-bit VM. That's the approach we're taking. There'll be a new bytecode set that should be 32 64-bit transparent. And the image is 32 64-bit transparent. In other words, it dynamically adapts itself to running in a 32 or a 64-bit environment. So this is all really exciting to us. So, how do you get VA Smalltalk? You can download a free copy. Just go to our website. You can buy developer licenses. That's really cool. That keeps me coming to the conference, pays for the hotel. We plan on having some development builds available as we roll out the new VMs, and that'll be announced in our Google groups. You can be a committer to an open source project. So if you download an evaluation copy, that's going to nag you to buy the developer's license. If you're a committer to an open source project, you can get a paid up license to the product that won't nag you, or you can work for an education institution. You get academic licenses, which are also no charge. Okay. Now, I promised I'd talk about the Smalltalk Foundation. The Smalltalk Foundation was announced originally at ISUG this year. Mike Taylor, our CEO, also talked about it at UPSLA, and he asked me to talk about it here. This is a new foundation, and I'll show you the mission statement on the next page. It includes major Smalltalk companies and many well-known Smalltalk people who've had a long history. It's focused on extending the success of Smalltalk into the future. It's partnered with ASUG. It's partnered with FAST. Our board of directors is meeting next week, actually, to formalize the organization and to put together our agenda for 2015. And there is a website already up for it where you can see the board of directors and find out a little information about them. This is the mission statement. The acronym TEACH is how we describe the things that we plan on focusing on. So it's fostering innovation and enterprise of technology. It's encouraging education. You guys do a good job, great job here, with the colleges. I'm always impressed by the students that come to these conferences. It has a focus on art. We're going to try and foster artistic pursuits with Smalltalk. We are going to work on enabling an international community that can collaborate on solutions. And as we saw at last year's STIC conference, the H stands for history. We had a very interesting, especially for those of us who've been around a while, set of presentations on what had gone on that led to where we are now. Alan Wurzbrock was there and talked about the early days at Tektronix. A lot of other people from the early days of Smalltalk were there and talking about it. So more information will be available shortly on the website. So, thank you. And do we have questions? I know I'm all that's standing between you and coffee, so. Okay. Please enjoy your coffee. I'll be here the rest of the day. Do you want me to turn these off?